Good evening and welcome back to Global Business School video lecture series. Today I'm gonna pick a very specific topic which will be useful for people in the manufacturing industry and especially to understand the costing aspect related to product costing. So many practicing professionals still cannot really understand the mechanism, how it works behind the product costing concept. Although people are exposed to and access to many versatile and sophisticated accounting and other software platforms, people still cannot understand because they have lack of basic understanding of the product costing. So I just thought of give to enlighten that knowledge and understanding to those individuals and professionals, and this video will be very useful for those people who would be benefiting from this particular video lecture series. This is Mohammad Ashik Khan, and I am a practicing accountant and having my own auditing firm, and we also maintain our training center. I mean, we cater all different type of financial finance related qualifications, knowledge and practice and applications and all that we do support. So in that understanding only we just thought of do this video to be benefiting to or to make many professionals to get use of this video. So let's begin with our discussion. Let's say we produce a given product. Let's say I'm producing rubber ball. I'm producing a rubber ball. When I produce a rubber ball or any given product for that matter, this production will comprise some elements. So these elements are basically known as one element for the required elements for to complete our production is material. The second element that we needed is labor. And the third element of the required aspects for the production of this rubber ball is expenses. I would name at the moment expenses. So when I complete one single unit, of this particular rubber ball, at the time of completing, I may have to incur or consume the required elements from material, labor and expense. And as we all of us understand that this goes into a given process. We have something called input, and that input goes into something called process, and that goes into, once these inputs are given to the process, and the process will give an outcome. That outcome we call it output. This basic process everyone knows. So here these three elements that I was talking about, them are part of the inputs. So I would be giving material as one input, and I would be also giving or consuming labor as part of the input. Sometimes you also please try to understand as the production process, manufacturing process goes on, some of the elements we may have to introduce at the very beginning, some on a regular intervals, some at a given point of time. Now, if you think about material, sometimes material we may need to introduce at the very beginning of the process. Sometimes these material needed to be introduced at given intervals. However, labor we may have to continue on a continuous basis as the production process continues, the consumption or the usage of the labor we needed. plus the expenses also the same story. So I would consume expense as well. So these three elements, I would what do you call that, bring it, package it in my input. When I do that, and then that will force to the next level of the production process, which is the process itself. So the staff and the machines and the mechanism will work together, and these process, they will then come up with output. Now if I go back and look into this example rubber ball, then the main material will be rubber. Please remember, we may not only require material, rubber is a material, we may also need some other materials. Some additional added materials we may need, and some consumable stores we may need. Like for example, I find I need to upkeep my machine, and also I may have to need packaging materials. So materials could vary. So I have materials, and then labor, same story. There are certain labor who are directly involved in the production process. And if I phrase it like this, in the absence of this group of laborers, we are unable to complete our production process. So these are some group of laborers like that. On the other hand, there is another set of labor who are still essential in our business, but their absence will never jeopardize our production process. And then expense also same story. So it could have directly attributable to our production process, and also regardless of our production process, those expenses still yet to be incurred. So this is what the basic chain that you need to understand. Now, when you talk about these elements, so here I have material. There are two types of material we have. One material is known as direct material. The other material we call it indirect material. Other one is indirect material. The second element is labor. So the second element is labor. The labor has again two elements here. So direct labor plus the indirect labor. So, and when you, as we discussed here, the third element in this manufacturing requirement is expenses. We need to incur expenses. These expenses also could be categorized as direct expense plus indirect expense. Now then we need to clearly understand what you mean by these terms, direct and indirect. So when you talk about direct, any elements could be material or labor or expense. If these are not available, in the absence of these elements, you will not be able to complete your manufacturing or production process. So that direct has, as we understood, three: direct material, direct labor, and direct expense. The total of this, if you get the total of these three, that total you name it, you name that as direct cost. So as I have said here, the total here, see, the total is direct cost. And the other aspect of these elements are indirect. So when we talk about indirect, means these still the business will incur, it will consume, it will have to pay for, but the incurring of this does not have any relationship to the production process. Even at the despite of availability or despite of non-availability of these indirect elements in the cost components, your production process still could be continued smoothly. So these are, as we understood, three elements. Indirect material. I explained you what are indirect material. I said that some consumable items or some maintenance required materials or packaging materials or something like that, which has no direct proportion to the production units increase or decrease. And then you have indirect labor. This indirect labor, which is also does not have direct relationship in the production process, such as if you look into a storekeeper. So attendance of storekeeper coming to warehouse and not coming to warehouse not going to jeopardize the production process, what is happening in the factory floor. Same story with production supervisor, or even that is applicable to the accountant sitting in this finance office, or cost accountant sitting in his finance office. So these people's cost or these people's input does not necessarily relate to the production process, yet this will still be required to incur in the complete activity in our business. If you talk about this manufacture of rubbers and rubber balls, now their input and their efforts, it's not direct. And also there were these indirect expenses. Now before I talk about indirect expense, I'll go back to discuss what are these direct expense. Precise example for direct expense is that one good example is royalty, where every time you increase a single unit of your production, you may have to pay some patent or ownership, brand ownership, or some royalty for the people who have invented this. Like for example, you are a printer, you are publishing a book, and that book was written by an author. So you have made an agreement, every time you complete your production, manufacturing or printing the book, you will be paying him $3 or $4. Please note that this $3 or $4 is not material, is not labor, but it is direct. So if you don't agree to pay this $3 or $4 to that author, you cannot do the production or printing of that book legally. So those are direct expense. So here the total of all these, we name it indirect cost. And we also do have another name for this, that name for as overheads. So this is what the basic analysis of the cost components that is required when you will start to think about the production process to understand the product costing. So I would be stopping my lectures or video at this point of time, because just to ensure the viewers benefit, not to feel boring or like that, I'm making it in short videos. It's now the timing is approximately 15 minutes. So I will release another several iteration to continue with this, and so that it will be beneficial for everybody. Thank you so much, and do contact me if you have any question to clarify relating to this. So our contact details are, I just write it down here. My phone number is 5000-8194 +974. Currently I am based in Doha, Qatar. Thank you so much.